Hey y'all, it is June the 1st, which means it is another Training Tuesday for me as I work towards training for the London Marathon 2021. And today I wanted to talk about training programs. So I am approximately 16 weeks away, or 4 months, from running the London Marathon as a charity runner for the Change Foundation. And I've never run a marathon before. I have run a variety of virtual races. The longest that I have run is something that is a half marathon. I've done that on a couple of occasions, and I feel reasonably confident about where I am with my running, but not having run a marathon, I've done a little bit of research about marathon training and tried to find a training program that works for me. And if you've signed up for a marathon, a lot of marathon websites will offer a training plan. In particular, I can show you what I have here, which is the London Marathon's training plan for beginners. And this was something that I had looked at and downloaded the other week and looked at as this is my path towards really training and planning for the London Marathon. And as I've sat with it again a little bit more recently, I've realized it works, but it maybe doesn't work for me. And I say that not because I think I'm some awesome, fast, speedy marathoner, because I don't know what I am as a marathoner yet. But I know what I am as a runner, and I know where my average time is when I run half marathons. And I know that in talking with friends who have run marathons, I can't just simply take my half marathon time and double it and think that that's what I'm going to run when I run a full marathon. But looking at this training program and looking at how it is set up, I've realized that this beginner training plan isn't quite what's going to work for me. For example, week 1, starting on Monday, it says rest day, simply just be on my feet and be active and walk a little bit more. Tuesday, walk 30 minutes. Wednesday, rest day. Thursday, run walk 40 minutes with a breakdown of a 10-minute brisk walk, 20-minute easy run, and a 10-minute brisk walk. Friday, rest day. Saturday, rest day. Sunday, run walk 50 minutes, 10-minute walk, 30-minute easy run, and a 10-minute walk. And I've looked through, a little further. That's week 1. That's an easy, approach. And when I've looked through this, for me, I've found that I don't feel like this matches up with what I do running-wise on a regular basis. Typically on a weekly basis, I run 3, maybe 4 times a week, and I'll typically clock about 20, 25 miles, maybe a little bit more on a weekly basis. So that, to me, when I'm looking at time and I'm looking at distance covered, I don't feel like that's quite going to work for me. I feel like that's maybe a little too low on that bell curve of being a novice marathoner, novice runner, and having no idea what you're doing versus being an elite runner, which I'm definitely not an elite runner. But I feel like I'm not quite at that beginner stage. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is look at the improver plan that the London Marathon offers and see how that works. And I've read a handful of books. I've read some books from Bart Yasso, who used to be an editor for Runner's World. I've read some books from Meb, who is a American marathoner and has won the Boston Marathon and is an Olympic medalist and won some other marathons. And I'm probably going to try to find something that's a little bit in between all of these. And I highlight this to talk about the fact for people who are maybe new to running and aren't sure what to do, and in particular maybe new to marathoning, as I am actually, and trying to figure out what works for you. And, knowing what I'm capable of doing as a runner versus some of these plans, and trying to find a middle ground. Because out of all of the people that I've talked to about running in a broad sense, and in particular marathon training, everybody always acknowledges that everybody's a little bit different. And so a plan that works great for one person, such as like a traditional couch to 5K, if your goal is simply to complete the race, might work and will work most likely. But if your goal is a little bit more than just, hey, I want to finish the race, I'm aiming for a certain time, I have a specific goal that I'd like to try to accomplish, there's not a perfect plan for everybody. There is not a one size fits all answer. And having looked at this beginner training program here, I think it certainly is effective, and it would certainly work if I hadn't already run a handful of distances, especially up to a half marathon. And when I've run my half marathon distances previously, I've generally felt rather tired and worn out, but not totally exhausted where I just was done and I couldn't do anything more. And having talked to a friend of mine, William Flynn, who has run actually all 6 world major marathons, including the London Marathon and others, he's always told me that, look, if you feel like you still have a little bit left in the tank after a run, you can definitely do more. That was actually a lot of the feedback William gave me very early on in my running journey when I was debating signing up for some half marathons, which unfortunately got derailed because of COVID-19 and travel restrictions and crowd restrictions and so forth. And his question to me was, okay, so what's the longest you've run? Did you feel like you could run more after that, or were you just totally spent? And at that point, 7 to 8-ish miles was the longest I had run in about January-ish or so, December-ish, 2019, January 2020. And I always felt like I was tired, but I could still keep running. I still had a little left in my tank. And for him, that was his answer of, okay, that's what I need to know to be able to tell you as an experienced marathoner, as he is, you can do a half. You absolutely can do a half. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and push yourself. And maybe I'm being a little cocky. I don't know. There's only one way to find out, October 3rd. I feel like looking at this beginner training plan, that's going to get me to the finish line. I don't want to just get to the finish line. I want to get to the finish line and be proud and happy and excited about my time. And so I'm going to have to tweak and find the right, if you will, in air quotes here, the right program for me. Because a beginner program is not quite what's going to work for me. And that means a little bit more work. It means a little bit more reading, tweaking, adjusting, finding something that works for me. So wherever you are in your running journey, know and understand and appreciate that we're not all one size fits all, that some programs are designed to do the bare minimum, and that's get you across the line. And if that's your goal, that's awesome. You go for it. You focus on what your objectives are. For me, as I look forward to October 3rd, 2021, passing Buckingham Palace, heading towards the finish line as a charity runner for the Change Foundation, just crossing the line isn't enough for me. I want to cross the line. I want to be somewhere around a 4-hour mark on my marathon, and God willingly, a little bit below that time. So I'm going to go back to the board. We're going to try to find something that works a little better. We're going to make some adjustments off of the trainer novice plan here and the improver plan and some of the other stuff that's out there, and find a program that works for me to get me a time that I'm going to be happy with. So what's next? So I am almost 4 months away from running the London Marathon for the Change Foundation. If you've been following along with my posts on social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter in particular, where every single week I talk about Training Tuesday and what I've been doing, I hope that you will consider donating on my behalf to the Change Foundation to help marginalized people through sport. and I will be back in a month with another Training Tuesday. So, yep, I'm going to keep running and pushing forward during the horrible, hot, and humid summer months, training for a marathon. And I hope that you'll look at the link below in the description here. Consider donating on my behalf to the Change Foundation to help me meet my goal of raising £5,000 to secure my spot to run for the Change Foundation a London Marathon this fall.